Attention, citizens. It's time for Super Pulp Science.
This is Super Pulp Science, where we talk about how genre gets made. My name is GMB Kamichuk. I am a working writer and illustrator, and I am here with my long-suffering co-host, Justin Curry, known the world over as Chasing Artwork, and our producer extraordinaire, Dan Vadeboncoeur. Gentlemen, how are you today?
Good.
Why are you acting so afraid?
Something weird happened before the podcast today that never happens. We took like 10 full minutes to plan out the podcast. It feels like we're going to be submitting for like a grant or to be picked up by like a bigger podcast or something like it. It feels like there's more organization.
So in the interest of full disclosure, dear listener, our fearless producer, Dan Vadeboncoeur, teaches about podcasting in another aspect of his life. And he mentioned that there is a formula that he provides to his students. And in an offhanded way, he said to us, but you guys never follow anything like that anyway. And so I said no. And the educator in me said, give me this. And so it broke out as follows, that you should have a rundown of what you're going to talk about in the podcast, that you should map out the time you're going to spend on each topic. You should definitely tighten up your intro, and you should make sure that your outro is succinct. Is that more or less?
Yeah, that was specific to you.
Specific to me. Oh, yeah. And then I asked for specific notes about things that I don't stick the landing on, and we agreed as a group that sometimes in my effort to try and weave the conversation into something, I try to have a pithy ending. It's often not good.
Not often. Sometimes it's very good, actually.
But
there you go.
We want to increase the instance of it being very good.
Yes.
And so what Dan is going to do is he's going to interrupt at the end of this one, and I'm going to go again.
Yeah.
Now, normally in an edit, you'd cut out the bad version. So if you interrupt it this time, let's leave it in for the dear listener to learn.
Sounds good.
Is that reasonable?
This is how the sausage gets made, people.
Yeah.
Exciting
don't say
stuff.
Sausage with that long S anymore, okay? No,
Okay.
Don't do it.
What are we talking about today, guys? What did we write down in our plan?
So on the plan, it said that we're supposed to, in our opening segment, sort of share what we've been doing in the week. So, Justin, why don't you tell me what you've been doing this week?
My week has been all about setting things up. I am moving from my condo into a new house with my girlfriend. And so my workstation has kind of been in like a little bit of limbo. And so I don't have quite the cozy work area that I'm used to. So I've been taking this opportunity to clean up my Dropbox and desktops and passport, like my hard drives, like just get everything cleaned up. And at the same time, I've been kind of plopping things into, I have 4 different books going on right now. I have a graphic novel, Spark Chasers. I have my next art book, which I slowly chip away at throughout the year until it's done because it's just kind of everything that I've been working on. And then there's a new anthology project, which I think I'm announcing for the very first time here.
Are we talking about it here?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Dire Beasts is going to be a monster anthology that myself and 10 to 15 other artists are going to have 10-page monster stories in. It's going to be black and white, and it's going to feature a monster of some kind. And at the back of the book, my favorite part about this project so far, the back of the book is going to have a bestiary of all the monsters and kind of their stats.
Nice.
And then the long tooth of this project is Gregory really wants to have a trading card portion to it.
A little fun game.
Yeah.
That was Lyndon's least favorite part about it.
That's why it's going to work.
That's why it's going to work.
Do
Do you get to choose your monster?
You make your story. Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. And then we're going to take out, like, everybody's story is obviously going to be in very different styles.
Actually, can I also point out one of my favorite things about this project, which only happened yesterday? Was that yesterday or day before? Justin made a design decision. So when we do projects like this at the studio, usually whoever has the most interest first ends up in charge.
Okay.
Right? That is sort of, and we just have always sort of seeded that enthusiasm as the leadership.
Right.
And so Justin was like, started laying out the book. Here's the information. He asked about like page size. He got people chasing down different elements of it. And so Justin's the book boss now. And so he was pointing out that in many anthologies, as a result of how comics are usually told, where the last page is a reveal, the last page of one story in an anthology is butted up against the first page of another story in an anthology. And when it's different artists, it can be quite jarring visually.
To
and
that
aesthetically.
final scene and opening scene back to back, right?
Yeah.
And so his very elegant solution was simply to make sure that each of our 10 pages are 2-page spreads, which doesn't seem like a big deal, except that if you're used to regular comic storytelling, you're used to that single-page reveal, big trick. You know, it's what you're supposed to do is set up a question and have the answer at the end, right? That's the page turn becomes the machine of the story. Well, now my page turn gets to be a 2-page spread, a big surprise. So it changed completely how I was thinking about my story and what kind of small reveal I was going to have as like a sort of subtle kind of fun twist is now a huge, epic, bombastic 2-page spread reveal. So that to me is very exciting.
My thought there was like that final page of your story. That's especially in like, you know, a little scary story. Usually that last page is you see the monster fully, or you see this horrific scene. Like it's a real. It should be a shock. And if then you're now competing with another artist trying to like suck you into their story, it just seemed unfair to both those artists to have that competition going on with like the very last scene and the very first beginning, you know?
Mm-hmm. And what most interested me about this is when we pulled off all these different anthologies we had in the studio library, they all were sticking to that old model of end on one page, start on another. And I can't believe in the hundreds of anthologies I've read that this hasn't come up, where an artist hasn't fought to have theirs end on that 2-pager.
Flight does the 2-page spread trick.
Yeah, so...
But you have to know that going in, right? You have to tell the artist you're going to create a 2-page spreads every time.
Right.
Or at least have it end on a 2-page spread, right?
Yeah.
That's...
So I definitely need to like put that into writing and let everybody know, because I think people are starting to get things going. Some confirmed artists that are going to be involved. We're going to have SMBCO be part of this, because this book, this anthology, the kernel of this idea started at Prairie Comics Festival on the Sunday when we had some spare time. And as we do, we come up with new projects.
And credit where it's due, I believe Lyndon Rodchenka, he found a format. He found a book at Prairie Comics.
Yeah,
and he was like, this is the container.
This size is great. This paper's great. This
Everything
black and white.
about the container was, let's do this. What would we put in this? And then that's how Dire Beast sort of started, was let's do something that's not too much for all of us to commit to. Let's do something that if it was just sort of the 5 or 6 of us that we knew we could rely on, that would be enough. And then the more it grew, the more it seemed like a great vehicle to invite other people we haven't had a chance yet to work with and bring them onto the project.
Yeah.
So are you guys making up your own monsters, or are you going to use traditional monsters that are like already established?
The only rule of the book we have so far is your story must contain a monster of some kind.
That's
and
it.
We're
It
leaving
can be whatever
it
you
vague.
want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And black and white.
Black and white.
And do we talk about the real chase item idea of this story?
Yeah. I don't. And it might not end up in the book, might be a thing. But what we noticed, why this project came up, was we've done the anthology Dead Work, and all of us go to conventions, and we found this great thing where I have a story in Dead Work, Gregory has a story in Dead Work, and then Lyndon and Steven down there have a story. So when people buy it from me, I now have an adventure to send them on. You're going to go to Gregory, he's going to do a free sketch for you. And then you have to find these other guys down there, they're going to do a free sketch. And Zach is somewhere in the other room, and he's going to do a free sketch. And people love that. They get really excited that like, oh, I get to now go get a bunch of free stuff.
It's a legitimate added value, and you're actually wingmanning your fellow artists and creators by saying, I like them, you can go like them too.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the times they do end up liking them and buying something at one of those 4 or 5 tables that we sent them to. So it also, like, business hat wise, like, it makes sense too. Mm-hmm. And so the idea with this one,
is to make it black and white, but we are choosing very specific paper stock that can take a little bit of color in the moment, so that when you bring your story to me and it is my job to sketch or sign in it, I can take out a Prismacolor or I can take out a watercolor brush and I can dash in the important color elements of my little story right there. So if you track everybody else down, your book goes from being a black and white project to being a color project by tracking down the artists.
That's crazy.
Right?
That's a good idea.
The creative challenge here is to come up with a color other than blood red for your scary story.
I don't think so. I think we should make it just red.
If you will, you will come.
So the stuff that we haven't decided is like, do we have to codify the color? Should it be red? Does that just like so obvious? Can we find the right material marking apparatus
and then, like,
that
buy
then
that
everyone
bulk
can have,
and make sure everybody has the same marker and
so that it dries quickly and there's no bleeding, and so that it's not like a exercise in everybody's patience. Right.
You want this to be easy for the artists to do in the moment while they're at their tables, right? So it can't be a chore for them. Yeah. That's a great idea, though. I think
we should have a fake ad for the coming of Meat House.
Yes, that's a
That'd
great
be a fun
idea.
one. That'd be perfect for this.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that's I think that's an exciting thing.
Yeah, I'm super excited about
How about you?
Yeah.
How about me?
Dan? What's
I've been
new
very
exciting?
busy. I have 2 jobs, as I've talked about before, and not had a lot of time. I've not done the NaNoWriMo thing that I wanted to do. So I have written.
You're writing for
I'm
your
still
job.
I'm still writing. I'm still finding. I had some time this morning. I've spent about half an hour this morning working on Meat House, so I am getting it in here and there. Nice. I'm still hoping to have a first draft by the end of this month. Just not able to spend time every single day. But it's coming along. I'm it's interesting. We're talking about. We'll get to this in a second about a prompt for a story break. But what you were talking about does kind of Meat House does kind of fit into that situation. So I'm starting to think about it in terms of, I guess, more of a cohesive story, I guess, and what that kind of thing goes. But yeah, I haven't really been doing much creatively this week, unfortunately. It's been more...
The weather is perfect for writing right
It is,
now.
yeah. It's
really is.
snowy out. You don't want to go outside.
It's not like it's the fat snow, like those fat flakes, and it's not too cold out yet. Like you could get away with going out in a sweater, and the snow isn't necessarily sticking around. It's kind of melting, so it's like this is my perfect stay indoors and work kind of weather.
Kind of like to work by a fire while the snow is falling.
What a perfect segue.
So well, I've been organizing the Fireside Book Market. So
where did you come up with this idea?
Well, so, people will say things like publishing is an old boys club, or like it's all based on who you know, or any of those kinds of things, which can be quite demoralizing. In this case, absolutely true. We were invited by Friesen's book printers.
Shout out to Friesens.
Yeah.
We love you.
We do love you. And recently agreed to be a sponsor of our Fireside Book Market. So Friesen's, hooray. What they do is the people who essentially move the most product with them, order the most stuff from them in Manitoba, they invite, which are the Manitoba publishers, and Justin and I, to a box seat game at the Gold Ice.
Nice.
And one of the fun things that I do there is I ask Donovan, who is our book rep, to tell me baseball phrases that I can yell so it seems like I know baseball.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know baseball at all. In fact, I find it excruciatingly boring. Except during this event. This is like, I look forward to it now, to go and pretend to love baseball. And in pretending, I've kind of started to appreciate baseball in a way. It's like a wag the dog moment.
It's more the company. If you had to be there by yourself watching the game, you might have a different...
Do people go to baseball games just by themselves like they could to a movie? I think
I'm sure they would. I'm sure there are people doing it. Absolutely. People love everything. There's always somebody who loves something so much they will absolutely go by themselves.
So we were not by ourselves. We were sitting there and we were talking about the problems of distribution and marketing of the book world as it exists now. Very tricky. The elephant in the room, of course, being Amazon, but there are less and less wild animals in the jungle of book publishing, and it's getting hard to figure out how to navigate it. So one of the things that Justin and I have always done is take direct to conventions and outlets, and just as creators, show our wares, people tend to pick it up. And the publishers were lamenting that if only they could do things like this. It wasn't like a big lamentation because we were all having a good time, but it must be nice to be able to do this. And I had the perhaps misguided notion to say, well, why don't you do that? What if you...
the initial idea was like you were trying to get Donovan to put this on, or like
Yeah.
have somebody should do this.
So he's trying to get somebody else to do the work, eh?
Yeah, why
Right.
won't somebody do this?
Why won't somebody do this? And it's because we have a somewhat disingenuine quip that we throw bandy about at the studio here, which is, haven't met a publisher that hasn't let me down. This is not to say that publishers always let you down, but there's usually some part, because your ego is so caught up in the passion of making the book, there's usually a part of it where you wish they had championed it the way that you believe it could be championed. It's not their fault. It's a business model.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right? But so in the heat of the moment, I was suggesting that if there was an event where publishers didn't make themselves participants as publishers, but instead as sponsors of individual creators that they publish, they might have a much better response from an audience if 10 authors show up instead of one publisher with 60 books for
Right.
sale, right? If 10 authors show up and those authors will sign the book and personalize the book and talk about how it's being made, wouldn't that engage more authentically with the audience of book lovers than just a pile of
And
books that they should buy?
I've been at conventions, I've seen those tables where it's just like 8 tables in a row and like dozens and dozens of books, and then one person behind it, and then if beside them is a bunch of authors with their book, like I am zipping right past that big table and going to those individual authors, because you're getting, that's why you go to these things in person, for that genuine like experience of buying the book from the person that made
And
it. That book is so
hearing
much
from
more
them.
special.
Yeah,
Yeah,
why it
I
matters
agree.
to them.
I agree. I tend to skip over the publishers' tables a bit when I'm looking
Right?
at the
Yeah.
accounts. Yeah, I'd rather talk to the author themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So using that, I just said, like by show of hands, all publishers here, if there was an event where you weren't allowed to come unless you sponsored a certain number of authors to be there, would you participate? And of course, Ape Press, the very first, didn't even let me finish. It shouts out, "I'm in, whatever you're doing, we're in." Right?
Shout out to Matt.
Yeah, shout out to Matt Drodry. I was just at an Ape Press book launch last night for Ariel Gordon's new book, Sightseeing. It was wonderful. And she's going to be at our Fireside Book Market as one of these authors who gets to gets to present their work directly. And I think certain authors, even if they are, this does not describe Ariel. Ariel's really good in person. But even if you weren't that great in person, even if you are a little bit nervous about talking about your own work, the fact that you made it and you're a little bit nervous to talk about it is not bad in a setting like this. This actually will usually engender you to the reader even more, that you're more modest and that you just wish they cared,
Yeah.
but it's kind of hard to describe. This isn't a bad thing, to be authentically a little bit nervous
The
about.
opposite of that is the carnival barking author.
Right.
Right.
You want to hear about my comic?
Well, that's what we were complaining about that last episode. Right?
That's right.
Yeah, so you're taking the opposite approach. Okay.
So what we've done is we've invited 25 more, there might be even 30 now, authors to a Fireside Book Market, December 3rd.
Don't run out of space.
Well, I got that figured out today, actually. We ordered tables. I checked with the venue for what their normal configurations will be, and so there'll be space for everyone and enough space for everyone who we invited, which is why we can't, if you're listening to this and one of the many, many people who've reached out to say, how do I become a part of this? It's not that we don't want you to be a part of it. We would love for you to be a part of it. It's an experiment. And so we reached out to people who were at our secret evil baseball game meeting, right?
Yeah,
and
pretty
said,
much.
publishers, invite authors that you think you would like to give this opportunity to. And then we also have our own coterie of people from the studio that are also coming there. So
It's so hard, that part of putting on an event or a convention. Like, how do you do that without you're always gonna rub somebody the wrong way. Like, somebody's gonna feel snubbed no matter how you do it. And with FanQuest, I bet you had to, like with vendors and artists.
I think they think all kinds of reasons why, they want to think what they think for why they didn't get into the event, right?
Yeah.
And they're trying to try and justify it however they want. But just try and be as upfront about it as you can. I think you're doing fine. You're like, hey, we don't know what this is. We're inviting the people we know first, and they're in.
and paying out of our own pockets to make it
Yeah,
happen.
and if you want in on this next year, we'll have an application process. Probably, right? Like you can do that. If there's demand for it, you can do that.
Here's the application process. If you have complained about us openly online in the last month,
Nope.
you're off the list.
Well, that's awful.
But you brought up a good point too. This is free to attend for both the vendors and the attendees.
Yeah,
the studio.
Well, that's why they feel entitled about it. That's what you're offering it for free. You should be offering to everybody for free.
It's not free for everybody. Like we're
paying
putting in some money.
They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past. Of course, we won't mind if you look around, you'll say. It's only $20 per person. They'll pass over the money without even thinking about it. For it is money they have and peace they like.
And that's how you have to have an experiment. Like there's an element of risk in an experimentation.
Sure. Yeah.
And so we can't say to the publisher, please risk everything on behalf of these authors. Margins are so thin already. You can't say to the authors, please all pay for a thing we don't know will work, right? Especially from a position where we have managed a business model where we're able to pay ourselves regularly a living wage, which is not how most authors have got it. So it'd be disingenuous for us to then charge all of them a table fee, make money off the event right from the gate. We're not doing that. Instead, we're losing money. On paper right now, we're in the red.
But you might sell enough product on your own to make up.
Oh,
you guys might cover. You're going to have your own table there as well,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
correct.
That
so
is, that is why, I'm not, we're not making, it's not as big of a deal for us as, we're not going to be in the red because we're going to be there with our product. We know what we can do at an average sale or even a small one. So we're not, we have that ability and that freedom to take that risk. So we're in a unique position.
And it's near the end of the year. And so what we tend to do is rather than think of, well, at least this is how I do it. I'm not sure how you do it, but mentally how I do it is I have a certain number of shows that I consider risk shows, right? That are totaled into the total number of shows I do in a year. And so if there's some fluctuation in those experiments, it's fine because near the end of the year, I know where I stand. Right? So I know where I stand now that it's okay if it goes abysmally and people don't show up to the Fireside Book Market on December 3rd.
Tickets available at
No tickets.
No tickets.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it's free.
Park Theater.
Free event.
10 to 6.
That might be worse. Free tickets available. Make them buy something, like pay for something.
No. Come have some hot chocolate. Come meet an author. And even if you don't buy a book from them, tell them you appreciate their efforts as an author.
Will there be any of your beer left by then to sell at the event?
No, definitely sold out all across the province.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about marketing. How are you letting people know about this event?
Well, the first thing we did was we reached out to all the publishers. So I made a poster for it. We got...
let's talk about the poster for a second because it's like not your style even a little bit.
It's true.
You fired it in the group chat, and I think, did I ask or somebody else, like, who did this?
Yeah, he said, who the bleep made this? Right? And
it's colorful, it's warm, there's barely any black in it. It doesn't look like yours.
I did put a skull in there, a friendly-looking skull, so they're feeling... And so what I also tried to do with this as an experiment is say to myself, can I experiment with a different style, with a different tone, and with a different sort of demographic that I'm trying to reach? If we can find a group of book lovers, we make books, and we love making books, that's where we're going to see eye to eye. It doesn't matter if I turn the poster into Monster Fest, which, I get to do for Love You to Death. I'm trying to do something a little different, try to grow a little bit. But what I really did was I stared at how SM Biko does their art and how Chasing Artwork, my co-host here, my suffering co-host, does their art. And I said, how could I make it feel like they made the poster? And so that was sort of
those were my
inspirations.
Interesting. Well, I want to see the poster. I haven't seen that. But so you got the poster. You're putting it up.
So we're putting the poster up. But
are we going to do physical posters?
There's physical posters, and there's also...
That's still effective. It's still very effective.
Yeah.
It is effective, and it's in a little community. It's very walkable. South Osborne, there's a lot of people who move around in there. There's some bookstores there that are... sounds like are going to support and be willing to drive some traffic there. But there's also the fact that we have 25 authors, and each of those 25 authors is reaching out to their little community of people, right? They all have a list, and I made I don't want to call it rules. I made a helpful suggestions for how you publishers can tell your authors how to make sure people show up to the event, and I laid that out pretty briefly and sent that, and I've been sending reminders about that regularly. So it's really not about some huge media blitz because we don't have the budget for that in the experiment. We may not be big, but we're small. And what all authors have in common is they have a small group of people who usually know about their books, like their books, and support their books. And so if all those people come, it's like Amway. Right?
Okay.
You just need like 10 people to tell 10 people to tell 10 people, right? It's sort of like that. And it's just one day.
Yeah.
And so if it doesn't work, the worst case scenario is 20 authors will have hung out and done the following. We're going to record a series of fireside chats. So what we're always trying to do at the studio here is figure out ways to hand your homework in twice, to not make any effort, simply the effort of that day. Try to find a way to put it in the bank. So if we're going to have all these great writers and all these great illustrators and all these great creative people from Manitoba all in one place, we're going to have a series of fireside chats, which we will record as content for this podcast, and then provide to them unbranded that they can use any way they want. So if they're on on 3 of the conversations, that author can then take that content and use it however they want, either through their newsletter, social media, or any other way that they want, where they've created some content to promote their book that is a little bit, what's the word? When it lasts for a long time. There's a word for it.
Evergreen?
Evergreen. Oh, and it's perfect for the winter market. Evergreen. That is the word. Why couldn't I think of that word? So that's sort of the whole thing. So the worst case scenario is we'll end up with 6 hours of great conversations from authors where we all hang out and drink hot chocolate together.
You're really big on this hot chocolate, hey?
Yeah.
Like
Well,
you really
I like hot
several times he's mentioned that.
Well, what goes nicely with the snowfall
Yeah, I
and the
guess.
fireside, little hot chocolate. The park is fully licensed, so if you want something other than that, you can have hot
Put
chocolate.
some Baileys in your hot
Right,
chocolate.
whatever. That's up to you, right? If you want to fully Hemingway your Fireside
boy.
Market experience, actually, don't fully Hemingway
No.
it. That ended in tragedy.
If we can make it happen, I'd be happy to help move in an electric fireplace of some kind and some comfy chairs and a rug.
Comfy chairs are a must. We're
Yeah.
going to have a fireplace of some kind there, and we're going to make that work. It's going to be great. But it's an experiment.
Yeah.
You know, who knows, honestly, how it'll turn out. So, dear listener, if you're hearing this and you're wondering, how can I help? Just come on down. It's free. And even if you don't spend any money, even if you're just there to listen to the authors share their journey of becoming authors, that's a success for us.
Yeah.
You know, most people who are putting on a show promise attendee numbers. Why aren't you doing that, Gregory? Why aren't you telling people 10,000 people minimum?
Well, it's because I'm not a liar,
Yeah.
number one. And also, this doesn't happen.
You don't know how many people are going to show up.
Well,
yet.
people don't do this. You know, I can't name another book market that's occurred in Manitoba where it's just authors are put front-facing that isn't connected to, say, the Thin Air Writers Festival or to Prairie Comics. And those are all ticketed. You got to
Paid,
pay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
best case scenario, this does really well, and other people take this idea
Oh,
and
my
do the same
goodness.
thing. Like,
Yeah.
wouldn't that be the best if somebody stole the idea and
Well, shout
did
out
it better?
Yeah, shout out to M at the Punk Rock Flea Market.
Right.
Not long after the first punk rock flea market, there were a lot of alternative markets popped up all over Winnipeg. It's a good idea, and no one owns that idea.
But in general, I find the idea of a maker's market is huge right now. Like they're popping up everywhere, not just for comics and artwork, but for crafts and little crochet things and all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
So again, it's and people love it. People really do like going
One
to
of a
these things.
kind, Third and Bird.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of stuff is super popular,
Scattered
and
Seeds.
you're right. They all charge for it. Some of them charge too much.
Some
I
of
would
them are
argue.
very, very expensive.
Yeah. So, you know, what we're doing differently is, since we don't know how it'll work, we're not charging anyone anything. Not the
Set the expectations
not the
low.
publishers, not the authors, not the attendees. Right? Just come and
Yeah,
give it a
this goes to the last podcast we had where we were talking about some people were upset at Comic-Con prices. Try doing like a makers market, like one of the bigger makers market. Those tables are like 5 times the amount for less than a Comic-Con.
And what I would say about Comic-Con is I was just talking to my friend Kenton who went and said
I didn't see him there.
He you didn't?
No.
Oh, he said the price of admission, like it's $50 for the day to get into Comic-Con, right, or something like that for the Saturday, completely worth it because of the panels.
I agree.
They had amazing panels, and that if you just went there and watched those panels, it's worth $50 for
I
that.
agree. And you can stay for 10 hours.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was that alone is worth it. So.
I had a friend go and he had to leave after an hour and a half. It was just too much. It was
Just overload.
overload, too much to see, too many people. It
Yeah.
was just, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But you're setting your expectations low. You're not charging any money, and that way people won't expect anything.
Well, strangely enough, though, we've had some, and this is, I guess, maybe the downside. If you're wondering, like, oh, should I put on my own? Here's my cautionary tale. We had a lot of people, like more than 25 people, who got in touch, and I would say less than politely, about how they were not asked to be involved in this big event that's happening. It's not a big, like,
We don't know what it is
It's never happened before.
we don't know, right? So just if you are curious about being part of something that you've just heard of and you want to be included, don't demand anything from the people doing it. Simply make an inquiry. This is my polite advice to you.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm just one guy and I try not to hold grudges, but
I want to know what's out there. I want to see it.
But you're not invited.
Well, okay, go ahead. Tell the story you told. I said not to tell it, but go ahead. The story you told about the Facebook thing.
So somebody reached out.
You posted about the event.
I posted about the event.
And things were already kind of cemented in with who's going.
Yeah, we already had the list.
Yeah.
We made the poster with the names of the people on the list.
This is a smaller venue. We don't have room for 50.
Yeah. But I guess maybe because by stealing Chasing Artwork and SMBico graphic design elements, it looks so good.
It does.
Right? So you just think, oh, it must be a big deal. I got a message saying, oh, yeah, well, this looks, kind of interesting, vaguely interesting. And I responded by saying, yeah, it's going to be really fun. This is what's happening. I'm really excited about it. And this person responded by saying, easy for you to say. They asked you to be a part of it. A little salty. So then I responded by saying, oh, well, nobody asked me. I'm the organizer of the event, and we're doing it through the studio, and, that's why we're excited. It's an experiment, whatever. And then they immediately deleted their comment and unfollowed. What's going on?
That's a weird, I would say that's, now I've seen that kind of behavior before when you confront somebody who doesn't want to hear what it is that you have to say. They're just going to say, no, this person doesn't exist. Forget it.
You're right.
I'm not going to bother. I feel like that person was probably making they were salty in the moment and didn't think about their
snap
comment.
Decision. Yeah.
And just said something stupid. And I think it's a stupid thing to say. I mean, yeah, it's easy for you to say, but I don't get that idea of it's easy for anybody to say.
Yeah, easy for you to be happy in this public space.
I would be easy. Anyway, it's just kind of a weird thing. But yeah, that's not the way to go about that. If you want to be a part of that, then say, how do I be a part of that? Hey, do you know? How did you be? I would say to you,
again?
I would respond to you. How did you get to be a part of this? What was the process? Right? That's what you want to know in that situation.
Maybe it's worth setting up if this goes well, and I'm sure it's going to, we'd like to do another one in the spring or the fall next year, and maybe there's a newsletter or something they can sign up to be notified when this
random lottery.
Yeah, well, because of the interest so far, I'm going to make a set of are you an author? Or a little handout. Are you an author? Did you come to this event? Do you want to be involved in the next one? If we had a huge response of people who were willing to be part of the next one, we might have to look for a bigger venue, which is not really what I want.
We want to keep it cozy.
Can you think of a show that grew too fast that the coziness disappeared as a result of it?
I've done some shows that needed to be a day longer, and I've done some shows that needed to be a day shorter. What I'm excited about for this show is I think it's going to be great, but potentially it could be very quiet. But that's not a bad thing for us. That's where Dire Beast came from. So
exactly.
if it is a sleepy show, what's going to happen is we're going to think of some other amazing project.
Well, here's my other secret curriculum. When you're talking about handing your homework in a few times, we just launched Shared World, which is a sinister Tales of Sword and Sorcery collection. We have the first volume out. It's launching on November 29th at McNally Robertson. But
Little novel.
Robinson. Stop saying Robertson. Jesus.
Robinson. It's because I dearly appreciate my association with David Robertson.
I know you were thinking about that guy. I know you were thinking about
He's always
David
on my
Robertson.
mind.
Yes,
he's always on my mind.
Yes, he's dreamy.
Yes,
He's dreamy.
That's why. But we're launching this thing, and we're going to do another volume of it, and maybe a bunch of volumes of it. So getting a whole bunch of local authors together in a room and finding out which one of them have a secret sword and sorcery tale in their drawer, and many do, right? is another reason why I really want to get everyone together.
You're also probably going to find an author or two that you don't want at your next event.
Yeah, probably.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Drama.
Yeah, there will be some drama.
Artists and authors, you get a bunch into a room and sparks can fly.
I'm trying to think more about marketing. What else can we do for marketing? Because I feel like that's not enough.
Sam
Is
did
it
a
newsworthy?
great...
It is, yes. That's what I was thinking. Like, you could pitch this to a morning show as a segment. Like, say, hey, we're doing this. I
What
think
would
there
be
would
the
be.
steps involved in it?
Well, you
Copy Sam's homework for Prairie Comics. She did all the work for you. You just have to look at what she did.
What did she do?
She was on a morning
She
show.
went on a morning show.
Yeah.
She did radio ads, bus benches. She looked into everything.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We definitely
Yeah.
don't have time in the
No,
short term to
no.
do bus benches
I
and
would
radio
not
ads.
ever recommend bus benches. I'm just against that whole thing.
We saw a lot of people from Prairie Comics Festival who showed up because of they were like, well, I didn't even know this existed. but
That was my thought too. Until yeah.
Wow. I'm
Or the
blown
radio-
away by that. I'm going to have to
Yeah.
talk to Sam
The
about
radio ad thing too. We've done that one day Comic Con that was like out by the airport. We're like, this is gonna be terrible.
But they advertised on the radio for
and
2
it
weeks
was
ahead.
nonstop
Bonkers.
for like 10 hours.
Yeah.
We were
Interesting.
slammed. Yeah.
So,
Well, then.
I
so
kinda
there are
forgot
ways.
about that
Traditional
show.
media does work, but I like your suggestion of a morning show.
I think that would work fine, and you would get some people. Now it's just a matter of emailing them and saying, "Hi, this is what we're doing. We'd love to come on your show. You want to talk about the visuals of it for TV? Obviously, you want to explain that there's going to be like, maybe displays or something. They're always going to know what it wants to. Well, I guess no. This is for an interview. No, they're still going to want to show visuals, so they'll show like images of your art and stuff like that. Maybe.
We could get a collection of all the book covers that are going to be present.
Yeah,
something
but so
like that.
so I would do that now. It would be you're a couple weeks away. You could reach out to
Making a note.
the 3 morning shows are 2 TV morning shows are Global and CTV Morning Live, and then there's obviously the CGOB and CBC radio morning shows you could reach out to as well. Those are the only ones I would say have a big enough audience that you would get a good bump off of it. Like, it's not really worth going out to a QX104 unless you think that your audience is there or anything. But I don't think
They're readers over there.
No, exactly. So that's
Was that shady?
Jeez.
Was
Whatever.
that salty?
Wow.
Hey, I have friends who work at QX, and it's a lovely group.
Better hope that they don't listen to the
Oh
podcast.
my god.
They don't listen. They only listen to country music. That's the rule about country music
Jeez.
listeners. They
Making a
listen-
lot of assumptions on this
I do
episode.
know that there are a lot of country music listeners who like poetry.
Oh.
That is a strange correlation, but I've seen that bear out time and time again.
That's interesting.
Something about cowboys and poetry, right? I don't know why, but it is true.
So I'm getting back to the bus bench thing. Can we? What did Sam do for the bus bench ads? It was just
Did
like a
she end
pic-
up doing them? She
Oh,
did, yeah.
No, she just hired 15 teenagers to go around and paste up her own ad on bus benches. No,
Yeah.
she went through proper channels
Yeah.
and did it.
Okay. I want to know, did she do the fake thing where they put like a little puppy or a purse on the bench to distract
No.
people and
I don't
make
think
you
they
look
did.
at the ad? I hate when they do that. Let's move on. What else we got to talk about? What's in our? Let's
What's
look at our rundown. Let's follow
refer
along with the
to
rundown.
your
Okay.
structured list.
So, dear listener,
This is wrong.
if you've fast forwarded past us talking about the Fireside Book Market, one of the things we opened the show with was about how Dan doesn't like how we run the podcast.
I didn't say that.
And has given us a list of things to do more properly. So on our map, one of the things that we were supposed to talk about, according to the plan we made 10 minutes before we started, was, Justin, you have a healthy business that has nothing to do with books at all, but you still are compelled to make books.
In fact, almost all of your current projects are books, right?
It's true. Yeah.
Like I'm sure you still have pieces of art you're working on, but
yeah.
but you are currently working on books.
And if
Yeah.
we look at it as so I'll pull a quote from Writing the Wrong Way, right? Books are a good business model, but a bad business.
Right.
Right? Why are you putting so much time and energy
So
into
yeah,
making
maybe
these little
like so the
paper
initial
worlds?
as I'm going about my day, if I have an idea that I want to talk about on the podcast, I have a Super Pulp Science prompt note. And one of the ideas in there was prints versus books. And the versus here is effort versus reward. I can spend 2 to 3 to 4 days on a print it out a couple times, have it ready that weekend, go to an event, and make sometimes a couple $100s off that one piece of art that took me a couple days.
Right.
versus
Which means your day rate on that piece of art is a couple $100 a day.
Right.
and then that print is endless, right?
Right.
I am still making money off of
evergreen.
prints.
Evergreen.
Still making money off of prints that I did in like 2014, 2015, right? I'm still printing them out. They're still selling.
But, Justin, I would be quick to point out, wouldn't that also be the same of books you wrote?
The problem is
There we go.
books take 4 to 12 to 2 years to make, and they usually sell for just as much as that same print or less.
And they're often more difficult to sell, aren't they?
They're
As
more
far as
difficult
a
to sell,
selling
yeah.
item,
Getting
Yeah.
people to admit to or give up their time, attention, and trust on a book, which contains so many unknowns, is much more difficult than
Yeah.
I like this beautiful piece of artwork,
Yeah.
which is at a reasonable price.
Go the distance. Go the distance.
Yeah, so I wanted to have like a bit of an argument, a back and forth of like
Oh,
why
I'm ready
why,
to argue. I don't know which side should I take.
See, no, I love making books. I absolutely love making
No,
books.
you don't. You hate them.
Here's what I hate. I hate the publishing industry and everything involved with it. And especially this last part of this year, I've been approached by different people and had conversations with different people about, options with distribution and getting your books out here and doing this and doing that. And my reply is always like, okay, well, after all that work, can I make as much as a small to medium-sized convention? And the answer is always, well, no. Then why would I ever go the proper channels of making a book and not just keep self-publishing and selling at conventions?
And you're doing the through Kickstarter, right? Is that what you're doing for
like
Spark
some-
Chasers? Or is
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Like
But
Red
like,
Dragon Annie? But
But
I am
also-
bringing my books to conventions and selling them in person and making more and getting more fulfillment artistically and financially.
And I'll sum up real quick. We have exhaustive episodes where it breaks this down widely, but really simply, every book you sell directly to a person is the same as selling 5 to a distributor.
Right, because there's so many people that need a little bit of a chunk of that book.
Yeah.
So when it's all gone,
To be a bestseller in Canada, 3,000 to 5,000 copies. Well, in
that's
a
how much
couple-
you only have to sell 3,000 to
That's it.
5,000
That's
copies
it.
to be
That's it.
bestseller.
In Canada, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, keep in mind, there's only 40-some million people who live in Canada versus the
But that
U.S.
still seems really low to me. That's just because there's not as many people who read anymore, right?
Well, there's just not as many people, period, in Canada.
Right.
Right. And the percentage of people who read is therefore less, and
Yeah.
so scales back. So, if our books were being tracked regularly through bookstores, we would be bestsellers with a number of our
we would have
products.
made a lot less money.
Yes.
And all the people would have bought them not from us in person.
Mm-hmm.
So I think my angry argument has to do with that. Like now that we have Comic-Cons, now that we have direct distribution, why make books with anybody
Right.
else?
Now, I know I'm supposed to be arguing against you, but so I don't want. I mean, I do want to name drop the person who sent me this text, who is a good friend of mine, but I won't for the purposes, as you will soon understand. They sent me a text saying like, "Hey, here are all the book plates." So a tip-in is a book plate, is a piece of paper that is sent to an author where they sign it at home in a stack of these pages, and then they send that back to the printer, and then that is
How does that not get damaged along the way?
they're real careful with
They
it.
have to be, yeah.
They're honestly real careful, and then it's put into the book binding so
Okay.
that your copy of the book now has legitimately the author's signature, but the author did not go and sit and sign each of the books.
They didn't.
Yes.
Yeah, they didn't. The final book didn't exist yet. They signed a piece of paper.
I've seen this, yes, I've
Yeah.
seen
Right.
Yes.
So these tip-in sheets, and they're very transparent. Like publishers say, that's
Yeah.
how it's being done, and this is the thing. So this person had more than 15,000 of these tip-in sheets to sign, which means their pre-orders on the book were 15,000. If you take, and I don't know their exact contract, so this is pure speculation on my part, not just for you, dear listener, but for legal reasons. This is speculation. But if their contract is typical, then they're getting 10% of the sale of a book at retail. That may shake out to $1 or $2. So now you're talking about, let's call it $1 for easy math. They're making $15,000 on those pre-orders, but they didn't make that money. That's set against their advance, which might have been between $30,000 and $50,000 a person of this level might get as an advance. So they actually, even with 15,000 orders of their book, still owe money to the publisher at that point.
Yeah.
They have not made money. And the publisher on that same has made between $80,000 and $150,000 off those pre-orders, but they still, on their bottom line, are owed money by the author. So the weird accounting that goes on by big publishing is another
And that's
reason
if you're
why.
lucky enough to get in with a big
Well,
publisher.
that's really what it is, right? Because it's like a few people at the top of these publishers. I mean, the sell for the author is you get your book in front of 15,000 people. Like
Amazing.
that is what, like, I would love to hear that, and you get to do it. The publisher will give you if you get in, you get an advance, so they will pay you to write the book, so you don't have to worry about that. And
Best
so
case scenario all
then
around.
then you just show up, and you don't have to sell it. You just like write it and send it off, and that's it. Maybe do some promotion, maybe do some book signings, but not nearly as much work as you guys do at the tables every time you go to the con, right?
And now I'm going to argue for a big publisher and for an author with their big publisher. From their perspective, they have done the groundwork to build a brand that people trust, to have the distribution to make sure that those 15,000 copies reach the people who paid for them. Mm-hmm. And they printed enough of the books to make them physically available, which means they had to put up that money. So let's say they printed 30,000 copies, even if they have the greatest printer out of North America, that's still $2. So they put up $60,000 of their own money, right, on a maybe.
Yeah.
So there is a reason why they get the lion's share, because early money is worth the most, and their early money in their case was they gave you an advance and they printed the book, and then they paid to market it, and they hope to get a return. And most books don't get a return, so this is why they need to keep the margin as wide for them as possible. Yep. So, like, I get it.
As, like, in this day and age, though, to get to, like, numbers like that, if it's just me doing all this, right, I don't need to get nearly those numbers to make that amount of money. And then Kickstarter or Indiegogo or all those crowd funding platforms are a great way for me to get all those pre-orders. Then it's not a guess. I know I got, 4,000 pre-orders. I know I only got 100 pre-orders. So there's that now. It just seems like there's so many more options.
And technology has reached a place where you can print on demand at a high quality. A low volume.
Can I ask you guys this? I'm not a regular book shopper anymore. Like I kind of have fallen out of reading habits, unfortunately. I want to get back into it, but
I've actually gotten so much worse in the last decade.
Yeah, I know. It's there's so much other stuff going on, right?
No, I mean, I buy too many books.
Oh, you buy too many.
I read so much. Yeah.
But how do people buy books? Would you say, like, generally speaking, is it still the bookstore the main way people buy their books, or is it Amazon? Is Amazon taking over and it's just like ordering it?
Yeah. So think of it like this, and actually. A great way of thinking of our analogy of the advance versus the return in the big publishing model is the way that in the 70s and 80s, music was done, right? A music company would have you, Dan and the Fantastics comes and you want to record with us.
That is a great band name, yeah.
Dan and the Fantastics, they're going to come and they're going to record with us. We're going to pay for all of your studio time. We're going to pay We're gonna
pay for the studio that we own,
right? But there's a cost associated with that.
I know.
And we're gonna get Rick Rubin in, and he's gonna like help shepherd your album in, and we're gonna have all
Mutt Lang. Can I get Mutt Lang?
You can have Mutt Lang.
All right.
Dan and the Fantastics, produced by Mutt Lang. Perfect. We're also going to secure the concert dates for you to promote this.
Right.
And all of this is a huge amount of money on our part. Now, we won't mention that they get prorated on all of these things because they do it all the time for lots of people. But now you owe us that money, right? So now you owe us $200,000 as soon as you sit and start singing your songs.
There's that big unknown of we have to trust your math.
Yeah.
That you were the amount of
Hollywood
it's all
plus projections and guesses anyway. They don't actually know how well it's going to sell.
So then when you go on tour, right, every time your concert date goes, a certain percentage goes to pay back my investment. Right, and a certain bit goes to you, and if I play it properly, you don't feel like you're being cheated because you're flying first class, you're staying in classy hotels, you feel like you're eating for free, you feel like everyone's picking up the tab for you. Man, you're living high off the hog. But then that year of concerts are done, and you still owe the company money, and now you got to go tour again. Well, of course you go tour again because then you get to live the high life and
Isn't
act
this
famous.
why the music industry is kind of pissed off at Taylor Swift right now?
Exactly.
Well, she's doing it herself.
She's doing it herself.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
more contemporary example here in Canada, look up the band Metric.
Oh,
who
yeah.
Looked at how that whole thing ran and said, "Oh, we'll just hire all those people ourselves and
Yeah.
we'll do it." Right? We have,
So that's us
That's
at
us.
Comic-Cons.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I get
That's
it.
us. Screw the big guys and their Hollywood accounting.
Well, and the only reason I asked the question is that you have an audience that goes to Comic Cons and the con will bring those people in and they'll buy your books. But I'm just talking about a general reader in as far as audience patterns and the way people behave. Like if I want to, I'm on regular reader. Do I go to the bookstore every week or do I?
Thank you for bringing us back on topic.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to
This
talk
is
about.
why I brought up the music industry. So there was a moment where there was a really no. Don't let him on yet. Don't let him on. No.
Uh-oh.
No. Don't let him on. If you think about it in terms of width and height, so back in the 70s, there was a very small entry point that if you got in with a big music label, how high you could fly, it was almost beyond limit.
Pretty much.
You could become Rolling Stones famous, right? So you had very few people capable of making albums. And those albums were capable of making enormous amounts of money. Now we have a broadening on all sides, and that has happened in music and also in publishing. People buy not what they're told to buy anymore with book publishing. They buy whatever they're interested in. So you have thousands of micro presses now producing books specific to people's interests, which is not really a good business model because it's so specific to their interests.
There's not enough numbers behind that
Right,
to
there's
make
not enough
money.
numbers. But there are people still wanting only to buy within their interests. So now the heights are much lower, the width is much wider, and so people are buying more books than ever, but not from one source.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I get that. Okay,
Right.
you want to get in on this, J-Bone? Jonathan wants to get in on this.
Special guest
This
appearance.
is the one counter argument that you're not getting into. I agree with every single
Back up
thing.
the mic a bit.
Every single thing you're saying.
He used to sing
100%,
in a heavy metal
100%
band,
agree.
so he gets right close to the mic.
But here's the one difference, or the one thing you're overlooking here.
Wait,
So this
before we
is
do
the
that,
question-
let's
I'm gonna frame
introduce
it
you.
to Justin.
This is Dr.
Yeah, sorry.
Jonathan Ball from Writing the Wrong Way.
Who the hell are you?
So Justin, if I was a publisher who came to you and said, "Hey, I'm going to sink $10 million to escalating what you're doing 1,000 times," that's the one thing you can't do. You can't tomorrow sink $10 million to scale everything up to insane, like now you're Harry Potter levels. So if you have that potential, which not, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but like if
Let's
you
face
think
it,
if
Justin
you think
has
that's
that
the potential,
Yeah, I
though,
think he does.
if you think this could be in Walmart, that's the level of the popularity potential here, then it does sort of make sense to become Justin Bieber on that level. Like Justin Bieber should sign to the label. He could do it on his own. Taylor Swift, we can see now she can do it on her own.
She couldn't back in the day, right?
But
Yeah.
that they made her Taylor Swift. Now she can take it over.
Yeah.
Well, and we see this increasingly
Thank you.
Thank you. Now climb back through the hole you chopped in the wall. We see this increasingly in the comic book world. People will build up an audience with Marvel or DC, writing Batman or Green Lantern or the Flash, and then Marvel, I didn't name drop anything there for you.
Spider-Man.
X-Men.
Todd McFarlane.
Right? No, he is not a character
No,
in
but
Marvel.
example of doing that.
Yes,
he
yes.
came up through the industry.
Build a huge audience, and then once you have that audience, capture it yourself by doing a individual creator-owned book through Image Comics or any of the many
Brandon Sanderson.
options. Yeah, Brandon Sanderson. Perfect examples,
Perfect,
right?
yeah.
So if you can build an audience any way you can build an audience. And if you can afford to build that audience without having to have that audience pay you, it's probably a really great idea to let someone else do all that hard work of building the audience. I completely agree with that. There are certain people I know.
Problem is,
yes.
a lot of those opportunities are these smaller to mid-sized publishers that we hear these horrible stories about,
Yes.
where nobody's getting paid. all the accounting is rigged.
See our
And-
previous episodes
Yeah.
about chizing.
Yeah.
CHIZIN.
So I think that's where my anger and anxiety comes from with working with publishers is I've never dealt with a big one. I only have heard stories and have had conversations with smaller ones where everything seems like a worse version of what I'm doing myself.
Now, dear listener, if you are in fact a big Hollywood agent, or you work for Simon & Schuster or HarperCollins, and you're interested in getting in touch with Justin, he is agented, and you will have to go through his agent to make these requests. He's ready for you. He's ready for the big leagues, and we want him to succeed.
Yeah.
But you
You
won't make
don't-
any money.
you won't-
Keep in mind, he's well aware that you will rip him off. And
He just wants fame. He doesn't want money. That's
But
all you get is
I
fame.
I wanted to have this conversation to just have this dialogue, like to have the fight back for like why, like
But okay, so let's go back to the source itself. We're having a book market because everyone who's coming to it loves making books. They love telling. They are storytellers first, and everything else is after. They found in themselves an ability to craft a tale and share it. Sometimes that's an incredibly brave act, and sometimes it's an incredibly egotistical act. But either way, if they're good at it, they shouldn't
and
apologize for that.
that's part of the reason too. It's something about like being able to size up our local competition and like see some like knowing that this
Wait.
cool book was made locally, like, oh crap, we gotta.
Did I accidentally put a hit list together for you?
Yes, you did. Yeah.
Oh,
Crap.
no.
They're
Yeah.
going to start disappearing one by one.
One by
I
one.
just think that it's a good idea to see if there's an audience out there for this, right? That's what a good experiment does. Is just puts everything out there and
Right.
and see who shows up.
And again, coming in a full circle back around to the print technology idea, Friesens, who has now agreed to help support the book market and come in on their side, they recognize that they're out in Altona, here in Manitoba. They are one of the leaders of printing in the world, right? Easily in the top 5, if not the top 3, depending on what year it is. And they stay current. Their printing technology is approaching the place where they can do that quick fulfillment for authors. And so one of the things we're having them come in and talk about is what technology is available for a self-published author not to have to give up tens of thousands of dollars to invest in themselves, but only maybe a few $1,000s to make an attempt, and then have an event where they can see the audience direct, and then they can do that basic math of, okay, if I'm just going to do this as part of I have a job and this is a passion, then they can save up for a year to afford their passion and get those books into authors' hands and not lose their shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which 10 years ago, you lost your shirt if you guessed wrong.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? So that's,
There's a lot of basements full of boxes and boxes of Broken Dream books.
Oh.
Yeah.
Broken Dream books. Is that our
makes me
next
sad.
market?
Next
It's
anthology.
got a nice ring to it, I guess.
That'll be what the follow-up to the Fireside is everyone who tried once 10 years ago and they just have basements full of their Broken Dream books. We're going to bring those books out again, and we're going to see if we can shave off the sharp
Just,
edges.
out of curiosity, because I know there are some situations like this. If you have like 3,000 books that you can't move, you can't sell, like
What could you
pulping them, yeah.
So you can
How
pulp
does that
them.
work?
I know it sounds horrible,
does
but
that
that just means
system-
you literally
Isn't that what this podcast is about?
super pulp science. No, it's not what it's about. Pulp as in referring to the pulp era of publishing. But that is a different kind of pulping. That's the paper, not what you do with a book that you want to get rid of, which is shredded and then put in the landfill. Don't do that.
Yeah, no.
You can, if you've got 3,000, 5,000, you've got a bunch of Broken Dream books. This is kind of awful, but you can get in touch with the distributor, ask them who supplies their remainder copies. Remainder copies are books that a distributor has purchased that did not perform well at bookstores, and they have now gone on full sale, right? These are the ones where you find, a book for $1, a book for $2. They're
Do
like
they have the
lost
covers
leaders.
ripped off?
No.
Oh.
These are, McNally Robinson has a section.
Wow, you kind of mixed them
Robinson.
you kinda mixed it together.
Robertinson.
You caught yourself.
I tried to catch myself. It's the neuron groove is so
Yeah,
deep.
yeah.
I can't stop. They have an area of discount books.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Oh, is
Those
that
are-
what that is? That's
those
what that
are
is.
remainders.
Oh, okay. I
Right?
get
They're
it.
buying those from a different distributor,
Yeah.
and they're selling them. It's a deal for the purchaser. It's a deal for the bookstore, and these are things that the distributor got at a song.
Huh.
So you could, if you were just trying to get those books out, you could find a remainder distributor and just have them pick them up. And if your real goal was just readers and not
they gonna-
remuneration, that could work out great.
Are they
for you.
going to charge you to pick them up?
Oh, everyone charges you for everything. Yes. It's try to carry 3,000 books and ask
Yeah.
yourself, do you want someone they're not going to do that for free. But
Yeah.
you'll have
But
to
like,
ship
are
it
they
there.
like in pulping them? They're getting raw material out of it, or is it just
No, you're thinking of like to a recycling depot. That's not going to help.
No? Okay, so-
in fact, that'll just make you sad.
So those broken dreams still are going to cost you money at some point or another.
I know personally. Oh man, this is such a sad story now I think. But I know personally a person that printed thousands too many of a book, and then one day just like hit a wall and said to themselves, "I can't see these anymore. They just are so indicative of my feeling of failure related to this project," that them and their husband went around all over Winnipeg dropping boxes in dumpsters for a week. They just
for a week.
because there were so many, and they were worried that if they put in too many, they'd get caught, right? And so they just would.
Hey, are
they'd
you giving
load
up
the
on your dream?
Yeah, that's our new business model. We'll pick up
Sad.
your broken dreams, and so then they went all over the city dropping boxes of their broken dreams
Oh my God.
into dumpsters.
That's somehow so much worse than
just so they could be free of the physical weight and space that their broken dreams were taking up.
That's too bad.
Like-
That's a good. I mean, it's good that you don't have to print that many copies anymore.
Right.
The technology's better. You can have smaller batches, but still, it's too bad.
Oh.
All right.
Let's
What a
lift
happy
this
note.
up.
On that note, let's end this. No.
Lift this up. If you have some broken dreams, no. Okay, so if I look at our list, right, which our producer has told us to make sure we do properly, we have done our rundown correctly. We've gone through our map. We have talked about everything. One thing we definitely don't have time for, so I'm not even going to bring it up, which
Good,
I think
thank you.
is a good move here. Our intro, I got a little check mark for how we did our intro. Our outro now, where I'm supposed to succinctly bring it around to everything we've talked about and leave us with a message of hope for the dear listeners of Super Pulp Science.
The ending connects to the beginning. It's
Yeah,
the best
here
with
we
movies to
go.
Yeah.
Here we go. So we started today talking about what we did creatively. And those creative outputs we try to make meaningful. If you have a meaningful creative outlet like bookmaking or art making, then you want to try and find an audience. You may think that someone will show up with a clipboard and say, here is the audience you deserve. That is not, in fact, true. You're going to have to find that audience. And if you're not sure, maybe experiment by creating a venue for that audience and see if they exist. If they don't exist, right, you at the very least have brought in a bunch of like minds where you can brainstorm what the next thing to do should be. And given that you have all of these people who have suffered the same, had the same crappy contracts, had the same bad broken dream things, now you can look at the problem yourselves. Not be told by someone who holds all the cards what the problem is, but look at the problem yourselves and make a move related to that. Ultimately, that's what this podcast is supposed to be about. We do things, we screw up, we tell you, dear listener, about how we screwed up, and when we succeed, we tell you how they succeed. So thank you for coming with us on this journey, and I hope to see you at the Fireside Market on December 3rd at the Park Theater from 10 to 6. This has been Super Pulp Science, where we talk about how genre gets made. I am Gregory Kamichuk, encouraging you to join the fight and make comics.